Hello everyone and welcome to another top 10 right here on the Psychosin project channel on YouTube. Today we're going to go through what I personally feel to be the top 10 bands, well not top 10 but 10 bands we need to see make a return this year, 2018. Now I'm going to say some of these bands are ones that have split up and some are just ones that haven't done anything for a while. So before you start thinking, well hang on, that band's still active, they may be active but they probably haven't released an album for a while. I'll be going at my honourable mentions in a moment, but first of all I just want to say, thank you for watching my videos and everything. Hopefully you'll enjoy this. Also feel free to pop in the comments any other bands that you feel we need to see a return from this year. Anyway, on to them honourable mentions. So first up on the honourable mentions that almost made it to the list but I decided to keep them off is Fear Factory. Now it might be a bit strange that I've put this here, but there is a reason. They released their absolutely awesome Genexus album back in 2015 and that done really well for them, got positive reviews all round. However, things have been very quiet on the Fear Factory front since they had finished touring that album. Now Burton C. Bell has been quoted as saying that the new songs for the new album were already written, had been written around the same time as Genexus and was shaping up to be even better than Genexus, and that they were hoping to record it and get it released within another year or so. That was in 2016. We're now in 2018 and there seems to have been no movement on it. I believe Burton C. Bell is currently recording stuff with his solo band, essentially The Watchers, but please let this be the year we get a return from the masters of cyber metal known as Fear Factory. Up next, Sisters of Mercy, and I don't care what Andrew says, they are a goth band. Well, they're a dark rock band, he probably preferred that tag, but for one of the proponents of what helped create that entire genre of music, it has been God knows how many years. It's got to be about reaching nearly 30 years since we last had an album from Sisters of Mercy. Could it be that we finally get some new material for all those of you with those black hearts who enjoy the good old grooves of the one only Sisters of Mercy? We can hope so, although after this long there is that slight issue that we've seen before where the expectation has been built up so much. Could anything they release meet those expectations? Only time will tell. We may never get another Sisters of Mercy album, but we can hope for the best. And finally, in the honourable mentions, it has been said so many times, it's been released next year, It's Tool and their new album. I believe they have been saying the new album's coming out next year for the last 5 years. It has now been 11-12 years since their last album, Lateralis, and us Tool fans are getting really hungry for some Tool. We need it. We really need this. We know it takes time to craft a bit of a classic and to craft your masterpieces. We understand that. We are patient people. We'd have to be. We listen to Tool. But they have so many times said the new album's coming next year or it's out this year. And they have again said recently it will be out this year, but only time will tell. Anyway, that is the end of the honourable mentions. Let's get into what I believe to be the 10 bands we need to come back in 2018. First up is My Ruin, featuring the absolute undisputed queen of metal, the one and only Tari B. Now admittedly you could say Doro as well is one of the queens of metal, but when it comes to more contemporary metal I would say Tari B. It's been a few years since their last album. She did go off and has done a new hip hop album, because for those who don't know, she did start as a hip hop artist back in the 1980s. However, through the transitions of bands like Tura Satana and Manhole, she finally found her groove with My Ruin. My Ruin have released some classic albums and have really experimented with their sound. It'd be really nice to see them come back and Tari B to reclaim her crown, as it were, and continue down that route of experimenting with this kind of hardcore meets southern rock clash that they were playing around with over the last few albums. Admittedly, their fortunes had gone downhill a bit. Record labels had stopped really taking that much interest, which is really quite bad. But you know what? The DIY scene in music is getting bigger and bigger and getting more popular for artists. So maybe that is the best way to go. And I think it's time for Tari B to rise again and for My Ruin to finally get the dues that they deserve in 2018. Up next is one of the greatest metal meets punk bands ever to exist, and came out of the early 2000s nu metal explosion it was. Even though they were not nu metal, with something completely fresh, it is Amen. Now, I realise that Casey Chaos has done a few projects over the years, including the side band Scum that he was doing with, I believe it was Samoth of Emperor. But we need that punk energy back that only Amen can bring us. After all, this is the band who brought us such classics as The Price of Reality, Coma, America, and in this kind of climate where you've got Trump in office over there in America, you've got things going very, very to the right over in America, we need this kind of punk energy back to rally against the pricks, as it were, and really, really get people moving and ready to sort of stand up for what they believe in, which is something Amen were always good with. Hopefully, because I know Casey Chaos himself has been trying to get another lineup of Amen to go and get this new album done, but it's been a fairly long time. Hopefully this is the year that they can make their triumphant comeback, and hopefully make their triumphant comeback with a lineup that understands that you're not going to make the most money in the world with this band, but you are going to make some absolutely amazing music that stands the test of time. This next band is probably more something that's never going to happen, but I can still dream. It is Strapping Young Lad, the Canadian extreme metal, well, industrial metal legends, headed by the Canadian genius that is Devin Townsend. Now, I know Devin Townsend is off being really, really rather successful with his solo project and the Devin Townsend project, and pursuing his prog metal dreams. And you know what? That's fine. I love his solo stuff, I really do. But in the current climate of the world and everything, you can't help but feel that we need Strapping back. I know he probably hears this every day, but I think Devin's got one last full-on, ridiculously heavy, somewhat probably goofy and ridiculous extreme industrial metal album in him. Get the classic lineup back together, bring us one last album that we can be proud of, because let's be honest, the New Black wasn't great. It was not a deserved send-off for the band, and I'd imagine that with everything going on in America, that with net neutrality being taken and everything else, I'd imagine that Devin has got some anger inside him that maybe he can't quite get out via the medium of prog, which sounds like some really, really terrible festival somewhere. But anyway, yes, Strapping Young Lad, please make it happen, please come back in 2018, even if it's just a few live shows here in Europe and over in America. We need you back, guys. We need some of that strapping magic back. Next up is a bit of an obscure one, because I think they only done well in the UK, really. It is Sugar Coma, one of the best and most underrated bands to come from Essex in the UK. And being from Essex, of course, I'm going to support them somewhat. But really, Sugar Coma, they kind of got a weird reception, as it was. They started getting really big tours. They toured with My Ruin, for example. And they also produced some amazing albums, some lyrically really rather dark albums considering their age at the time. And really, they should have gotten more success than they did. The press started really turning on them as time went on, when the nu metal thing was getting a bit played out. Fair enough, but they had something special to them. And they were nu metal while not being nu metal, as it were. They brought their own style to it. And I have been lamenting the loss of Sugar Coma for a long time. Admittedly, they disappeared for about 10 years, came back, done a farewell show, actually, a farewell live show, back in, I believe it was 2013, which I was lucky enough to be at and meet the band. And they're all very lovely people. So if they can come back and reform, start bringing back some of the old classics along with writing some new material, that'd be absolutely fantastic, and maybe we can get the UK scene even stronger than it is right now. And yet another obscure English band. For those of you who know the extreme UK metal scene, there was a band called Raging Speedhorn. Defenestration were the slightly less heavier, slightly more melodic, yet still no less brutal version of them, fronted by the Jen, I believe her name was, and they were absolutely awesome. Defenestration had 2 albums and an EP. Both albums were fantastic. It was 1 Inch God, and the name of the second album on the EP has completely escaped my mind right now. But they were superb. Now, Jen went on to actually front a band called Frasier, who are kind of metal strip meets punk band. Sadly, they never got picked up by a label, as far as I'm aware. Didn't really release that much. Don't know what she's up to, but you know what? 2018 is a year that Defenestration should come back and show everyone how to do Extremity again, while keeping that ear for melody that they had back in the day. If you haven't, go check out their first album called 1 Inch God. Trust me, you will not regret it. Next is a band who are technically still together, but have not released an album in now 6 years. Although they are about to release their documentary that's been in the works for about 3 years, celebrating their 20-year anniversary of being together. It is the Canadian metal band known as Kitty. Notice I said metal and not new metal there. They did come out during the new metal era, and yes, they did start as a new metal band, but as time went on, they found their own niche, they found their own kind of metal and strayed far away from the new metal thing. In fact, if you haven't heard their newest album, I Failed You, which came out in 2012, so I say newest album, it's their current album still, then you are missing out, an absolute classic. And after like 5-6 years, we need more Kitty. We just need more Kitty. They seem to be lovely, lovely ladies. I've had the pleasure of meeting the drummer Mercedes once or twice at one of their gigs in London, in the UK, not in Ontario, and she was absolutely awesome. She actually come running up to me because I was wearing an old Kitty shirt that had Telaine still on it, and sort of said, "Oh my god, I've not seen that shirt in ages." But yeah, got chatting to her, really nice, and hopefully 2018 will herald the return of one of the best bands from the early 2000s, the one and only Kitty. So by this point you're probably noticing that quite a lot of the bands I'm choosing are in fact from the early 2000s new metal period. The reason being for that is, as much as it gets maligned, the 2000s were a brilliant time for metal, and we did get some amazing bands, including this one, Spineshank. Now, admittedly, they did have a comeback in 2012. They released a third album that not many people even knew had been released, and it was okay. It was okay, but wasn't quite the raging fury with Fear Factory sort of elements and industrial elements to it that their classic albums such as Height of Callousness and whatever the third album was called, Violent Mood Swings, that's it, were. But I feel that if they could get back together, sort the problems out with each other, because I think there's a few internal issues between Johnny, the vocalist, and some other members of the band. I'm not 100% sure on that, but if they could get back together, work things out, and just come back with an absolutely storming industrial styled metal release, and once again I'm sure they would be welcome back, because seriously, you go back, those albums still stand up, they really do. The Height of Callousness especially definitely still holds up as a superb album. So yes, 2018, Spineshank, give it another go, please, we need you back. Up next is a band who did in fact tour with the band I have just talked about. It is Chimera, a band who never really got the success they deserved. Admittedly, they started with a very new metal album called Pass Out of Existence, that's it. But then they come really, really punching out the gates with their second album, an absolute stone cold classic, The Impossibility of Reason, and just continued getting heavier and experimenting with their sound and getting better and better with every album. There's a couple of missteps in there, such as the album called The Venom or something like that, which is pretty much a straightforward death metal album, but death metal didn't quite ever fully kind of suit Chimera, for my ears anyway. They felt a little bit awkward in doing it on that album, but they always knew how to hit that groove, that kind of metal groove that Pantera used to have, that Lamb of God have got now, that loads of bands are starting to get, and Chimera just perfected it. And with their last album, Something About Crowns, it's gone out of my head right now, I should have looked this up before recording this, but anyway, they really, the Phantom Crown, that's it, they really nailed their sound. That was an absolutely superb album that again just got ignored by the general public. Whether this is due to not being marketed enough by their label or anything, I don't know. But if we could get the classic lineup back, apart from Andals, because Andals going through some really bad health issues, honestly, go look him up, go look on what's going on with him. If you can donate to helping to pay his medical bill so that he can get better, go for it, because that guy seems genuine and he's an awesome drummer. You just listen back to those Chimera albums. But if they could get most of the original lineup back and record some new material, I for one would be very pleased. So come on, 2018, you got back together for the Christmas special in 2017. Let's get a full album in 2018, shall we? You know when you're at a live gig or you just randomly stumble across a band on YouTube and you listen to them, not really expecting much, you sort of listen to them and you sort of look at them and go, yeah, I'll give them a go. They look like it could be a bit of fun, something I'd listen to every now and again. And then you listen to them and your jaw just hits the floor and you're like, how the hell is this band not bigger? How have I never heard of them? And how are they not signed? That was me with Hearts Under Fire in 2013. They were supporting Coma on Coma's last ever gig, and I looked them up on YouTube before going to the gig, and my jaw just dropped. This band is absolutely awesome. And then to really put the nail in the coffin of how awesome this band are for me, and to make me love the band forever, they released their debut album a couple of years ago called Outlines, and that became my album of 2015, I do believe. It is an absolute classic that not enough people have heard, and probably not enough people will hear, because it has been released self-released. So unless a label does pick them up, it's never going to get out to a major market, sadly. However, they've been inactive for about a year and a half now. I think 2018 is the year we should get Hearts Under Fire back. Come on, start writing some new material, get some gigs going again. We need those old classics back. We want to hear Blindfolds again. We want to hear We've Come Too Far to Live to See in the Past. I've forgotten the name of it. You know the song I'm on about. But yeah, and if you haven't heard Hearts Under Fire and like yourself some more commercial leaning, emotional rock music, go check them out, because seriously, they are one of the UK's absolute hidden gems who are destined for greatness. Also check out the Franklies and Screechbats as well, which both feature members of Hearts Under Fire. Trust me, these people know how to make music, and you're going to enjoy it every goddamn second of it. In at number one, a band who are technically back together, but we haven't heard any real new music for a few years. It is the new metal band, rap metal crew, 1 Minute Silence. However, before you turn off because I've said the words rap metal, let me put it like this. You know how that Prophets of Rage album come out? Everyone was really excited for it, heralding it as a potential kind of return of the political anger that Rage Against the Machine used to have. And then everyone listened to it and it was kind of disappointing and kind of plain and kind of boring, really. That is my opinion, but I've seen that opinion echoed by a few other people. 1 Minute Silence are the UK antidote to that. Back in the day, they were actually touted as a UK answer to Rage Against the Machine. They are politically minded, yes, but they don't forget to bring the riffs, they don't forget to bring the groove, and they don't forget to bring the live shows. Honestly, back in the 2000s, 1 Minute Silence live shows were the thing of absolute legend. I saw them live a few times, and their mosh pits, although very kind of active and fun, were still like, there was a sense of community in them as well at their shows. If someone fell down, everyone made sure you got up and you were right, no matter what happened. And just 1 Minute Silence, they're a people's band, most definitely a people's band. And with everything that's going on here politically, with Theresa goddamn May screwing the country up, along with America and obviously Trump and everything, the political climate is right for a 1 Minute Silence, really impassioned album to come back and really show everyone what is going on and inform them in an absolutely awesome and heavy way. Hopefully they'll go back to the style they had on Buy Now Save Later and available in all colours, because their last album wasn't great, to be honest with you. But this is the year, come on, 2018, the return of 1 Minute Silence. Let's make it happen, shall we? So there you have it. That is what I feel to be the 10 bands that we need to see make a return in 2018. Will any of them make a return? God knows, but I can definitely hope. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As I said at the beginning, pop down in the comments if you want any, if there's any other bands you can think of you'd like to see make a return in 2018 that I haven't highlighted in this video. I hope you're enjoying the content I'm putting. If you are, feel free to check out my Patreon. The link is on screen now. Go check it out, become a patron. Any money that is given into the Patreon goes into the channel and into me improving the equipment I'm using for these videos, and also to make this channel better and get me sort of to bigger interviews with bigger bands, etc. Also, don't forget to check out my radio show, the Psychosin Project, every Sunday from 2 PM GMT, 9 AM EST on thatmetalstation.com. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.
I turned